Hi, I'm Steve Adubato. We're in fact coming to you for a State of Affairs special segment in the northern section of Camden. We're actually coming to you from the Camden Lutheran Housing Operation. We're pleased to enjoy and be joined by our good friend Kris Kolluri, CEO, Cooper's Ferry Partnership. Good to see you, Kris.
Good to see you, Steve.
You know the Camden community very well. What's going on today that is different from just 5 years ago?
Three things. One, the neighborhoods in Camden have never been more safe than they've been today, at least going back 50 years. Number two, the K through 12 education system is more stable than it's been in recent memory. Just to give you two quick examples, graduation rate today is 69%. In 2012, it was 49%. So and the third thing is the number of companies that are moving in here are more than they've ever been, and that is primarily because of the tax credit program, but equally important, there is a belief among residents and business leaders that this city is at an inflection point, a good inflection point.
You know, to be clear and to clarify things, Cooper's Ferry Partnership, that Kris will explain, is involved in a lot of development. Our team's going to go out and shoot some footage of some of those projects. What is the initiative? How long has it been around, and what are we going to see?
Cooper's Ferry Partnership is a private nonprofit. We're a community development and economic development nonprofit that's been around for 34 years. We have been the primary nonprofit, along with others, that work with foundations, governments, and corporations to make sure things like park projects are built, road projects are built, and to make sure that we provide a platform for companies to move into Camden.
Okay, so how hot is, you get an economic development thing going on. You got a lot of activity. You're going to see that footage. But we're in the northern section of Camden. As we walked onto the street, there's a jackhammer working. We tried to get them to stop, but they said, no, we got things to do. This is Camden. We're trying to build the community. This is a particularly challenging area, economically disadvantaged. We're actually doing an initiative with our friend Pino Rodriguez, who heads up the initiative, the Block Supporter Initiative. Not as big as yours as a nonprofit, but they're making a difference block by block.
But that's the story about Camden. This isn't about one individual or one organization that is helping the city move forward. It is a collective effort. The bottom line for people on the ground is this city and the residents of this city, like Pino Rodriguez, have never lost faith in where the city can be. And the fact that we're able to realize the dreams of generations that have not seen the prosperity reflects on the commitment by individuals across a broad spectrum, whether it is political, whether it is business, or whether it's resident-driven programs like the one that Pino is heading. That's what's making a difference. So what I'm suggesting to you is, unlike perhaps other cities in the state, there is no daylight between political leaders, business leaders, and residents on what needs to happen in the city to make sure it becomes more prosperous.
Kris, let me ask you this. Crime is a serious issue in this community. Public education, a serious issue and challenging in this community. With the crime rate being what it is, and it is in fact technically going down, we'll talk about that more, but the education system, again, improving, but not where it wants and needs to be. Graduation rates, not where anyone wants them to be. How challenging is it to engage in successful economic development with the crime situation and the public school situation?
I think the focus really has to be on intergenerational poverty.
What does that mean?
That means you have to make sure that the fundamentals of the city are working. That means we got to make sure the neighborhoods are safe. You got to make sure that people have an opportunity to succeed both in getting an education and in getting a job. That's how I think you build a stable community. The fact that the progress that has happened in the last 5.5 years is measurable and it has been meaningful demonstrate that we are at a very special point in this city. And I want to be clear, from 1968 to almost 2007, the city was socially and economically isolated. That is
define isolated.
As in the only investments that were coming in were the state deciding to build a prison on the waterfront. The only investments that were coming in were what I would call socially unacceptable investments. That was what was happening then. And what I'm suggesting to you is the residents have always had a belief that this city deserved the kind of opportunity that we're finally seeing. That's how you get the crime rates down. That's how you make sure you build an education system that reaches every child in the city. And that's what I think is happening. So this isn't a trend line. This is an absolute data-driven analysis that points to objectively where the city is today and where it's going.
So you speak about where it's going, Kris. You know the city better than most. 5 to 10 years from now, describe Camden.
I think.
And by the way, Camden's lots of different communities.
That's right.
Describe Camden in its totality 5 to 10 years from now.
So I think 5 to 10 years from now, two things are going to happen. One is the state currently subsidizes most of the city and the school district to the tune of 75 to 80%. I actually think within 10 years or soon thereafter, you're going to see a stabilization of the tax system, which is, as you know, foundational to making sure any system, any city survives and grows.
What you mean is that the ratables will be there.
That's right, because the businesses that are coming in are going to begin paying property taxes that there is no, as I said, for 50 years, there weren't any tax-paying entities that were moving into the city. So the city became more reliant on state government. So what we're suggesting is, for once, we're building a foundation for taxation and to make sure there's revenue attached to it.
You bullish on Camden?
I am. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here. Otherwise, the commitment that the residents have made wouldn't be realized. And that's the thing that I want you to take away from this. Folks like Pino and the folks like Betsy at Camden Lutheran
We'll be
Housing,
talking to Betsy in just a couple minutes. Go ahead.
right? They are the people that are driving the change, and I think it's often lost because it isn't quite. It doesn't get the kind of amplification that other projects perhaps
But it's huge.
get. But it is huge because if you're able to change the narrative on a neighborhood level, then you change it on a citywide level. And that's what the promise of the city is.
Thank you, Kris.
Thank you.
State of Affairs with Steve Adubato is a production of the CAUCUS Educational Corporation, celebrating over 30 years of broadcast excellence. Funding for this edition of State of Affairs with Steve Adubato has been provided by Seton Hall University, Valley Bank, the New Jersey Economic Development Authority, Hackensack Meridian Health, NJM Insurance Group, Choose New Jersey, and by ADP. Promotional support provided by Meadowlands Chamber and by NJ Biz,